You need to get out of your head and get into your heart. We've created a corporate culture where people are genuinely afraid to be themselves. The second that you start feeling icky at your place of work is the second that you need to figure out your exit strategy. It's freeing, and it's all a part of the process of getting your little pieces back. No matter what it is that you're facing, you're capable of far more than you think you are.
Imagine navigating the thrilling and challenging realm of corporate leadership, equipped with stories that resonate and provide advice that elevates you into the leader you want to be. Welcome to Corporate X-Files, where I will take you on a revealing adventure into the heart of executive life. Narratives from both rising and seasoned leaders to unlock the secrets of sculpting your corporate journey while battling office dynamics with prowess and panache. So welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I think you're going to find this interesting because we're going to talk about women in transition and how to navigate life and career changes. Melissa Cox is with us today. She's a leadership coach and consultant, and I have to say an industry trailblazer. Melissa is a seasoned financial industry leader and consultant and now coach with a track record of driving transformation and fostering high-performance teams and scaling multi-million-dollar organizations. With expertise in strategic planning, leadership development, and business growth, she spent over 2 decades at the intersection of finance, innovation, and talent development. Melissa served as the senior vice president at Bright House Financial, where she spearheaded the company's reentry into the life insurance market and led award-winning initiatives to promote industry diversity and dementia awareness. Before that, she held executive roles at UBS, Morgan Stanley, and Merrill Lynch, where she drove sales, launched new financial products, and helped advisors optimize wealth management strategies. I would have to say that Melissa always has been a coach. She has a flock of people that have been with her throughout her career and that have gotten where they've gotten because of the time that she takes to listen carefully to their needs and to bring them along in their careers. Now, as a consultant and a coach, Melissa leverages her deep expertise to empower leaders, businesses, and sales professionals break through barriers, maximize their potential, and to create lasting impact. She's recognized for her ability to read people, really read and understand where they're coming from, and identify hidden obstacles that they're experiencing and drive meaningful change with them. She brings a dynamic and engaging approach to leadership and to business strategy. She holds credentials, as you'll see in her bio, with Vanderbilt and Wharton, and has multiple financial licenses and designations. She's passionate about mentoring, innovation, and customer-centric solutions, and Melissa continues to shape the future of leadership and sales with her bold vision and strategic insight. Melissa, thanks for being with us today.
Hi, Louise. Thanks for having me. I'm super excited about our discussion today.
Yes. So, Melissa, you and I have had a lot of time together over the years, probably going back to, 2020 or 2021, and kind of leading up to where you are today. And it's so exciting to see you in your own business. So, Melissa, we talked a lot in our work together about navigating a lot of different kinds of life issues and career issues, particularly at pivotal moments where you were bringing out a brand new product to market, where you were challenged by getting all the right people on the board and making sure that you had the staff and your external team that was working toward the sales all aligned, and to help them reinvent themselves because they came from a different background and were now going into insurance sales, from what I understand. So you're stepping into entrepreneurship. And I think based on the fact that so many people have come to me to say that they want to leave corporate, but they're not sure if they can do it or whether or not they'll be able to make enough money on their own. So I think our conversation today could explore some of the unique challenges that women face as they make these transitions, especially those who are the breadwinner, as you say, and being able to deal with that self-doubt, that imposter syndrome, and society's expectations of us. And so I know that we'll talk about that, but I think that's a hot topic, and also how to embrace change as an opportunity rather than as a setback, because you never know what's going to happen. And tomorrow morning, what phone call or email you'll get that changes the world. I think third, practical strategies to help people reinvent themselves professionally and personally with a lot of confidence in themselves and knowing that what they're going to go do, they'll be successful with. And then finally, I think the importance of aligning someone's career with their core values and with the things that they're really passionate about. And I know that you've done that, you've lived it, you're here to share that with us. And I think being able to share your personal angle about how you navigated your own career transition and the mindsets that you have picked up along the way and have changed the way that you perceive things and that helped you find this new path. So I think maybe we should just start with, why are we calling this transition? What happened? And can you tell us what was the precipitating series of things that went through your mind and your husband's mind as you talked through as a family, going through and going out, leaving corporate behind and venturing out into this new world?
I think everyone, but women more so than men, when we take on executive roles in the corporate world, it can very easily become our entire identity. Mm-hmm. And, it's that old adage of, I am who I am, but at work I wear this hat and at home I wear this hat. And when you are spending the majority of your time in your work hat, it starts to become your entire identity. And then you're still that identity everywhere else you go, and you're tethered to that. And that can be scary to let go of. It can be scary to leave. It can be, I stayed in my corporate role for probably 2 years longer than I should have, because it was my entire identity. And so for me to leave, it took me being laid off. And then I had a decision to make of what was I going to do next. And when I look back on it, I wish that I would have made that decision for myself and left sooner. But and I also, while I was devastated, I was also so relieved. And at the time, I didn't know why I was relieved. But through time and through the exploration process that I went through in reclaiming my identity and deciding what I wanted to do going forward, it became clear to me why I was so relieved. And it's because I had outgrown where I was, and it didn't align with my personal values anymore.
That's really interesting. So it sounds like it had been building up inside you. You had some sense of it. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what made you realize that's what was going on as you look back at it, and then how you would describe your own identity as a woman, as a leader, as an entrepreneur, how you would describe yourself today.
I think the exploration process that I went through really opened my eyes to how far away I had gotten from my own values without realizing it.
Say a little bit more about that.
Well, the farther I got from the corporate world, the more I realized that I had been changing little pieces of myself at a time, giving away little tiny pieces of myself over time in order to fit into corporate politics, in order to align with corporate values. And those little tiny pieces over 20 years really added up to a big piece of myself that I had given away. And I needed to take the opportunity to reclaim that and remember who I was and what makes me me and what my why is in order to determine what that transition was going to be. And, you mentioned conversations with my husband. He's been nothing but supportive, helped to push me in the right direction, or pull me in the right direction, we should say, instead of push. And has had the complete and total faith in me that I could accomplish anything that I want to accomplish.
That helps a lot. That's interesting that you recognized it for what it was. It was kind of growing inside you, that you realized there was that gap. But if you could describe what was left out when you were transitioning to, I got to figure out how to add things back that I've given away. What did those things consist of? What would you describe? You don't have to be specific about what, but could you describe a little bit about what you feel like you gave away in your corporate role?
There's not a lot of women in financial services. There were none 25 years ago when I started. I was literally the only woman for decades.
And this is in the insurance industry?
And financial services all the way across. I started at Merrill Lynch in 2000, so all the way back to that.
Okay.
It's a very male-dominated industry.
Mm-hmm.
And there's there's some chasing around the desk that you have to maneuver. But there's also that line that you have to walk between, because if a man is passionate about something, right, that's great. If a woman's passionate about something, she's angry.
Oh, is that right? That's how they saw you?
And if a man is a persuasive leader, that's great. But if a woman is a persuasive leader, she's manipulative.
Ah, I gotcha.
So there's a lot of pressure just to the job in general, but then when you lay that on top of it, it's a constant tap dance, and you're constantly having to think about how you're going to think about how you're going to think about how you're going to respond. That creates an edge that wasn't there before. And so in order to not be seen as the bitch, the manipulator, you have to start shaving little splinters of your own personality off.
And in return for that, you're saying, so that you're not seen as manipulative, you had to change something in order to be persuasive that met that criteria for other people?
Yeah, I mean, you have to give up little parts and pieces of yourself. And I think behind the scenes, female executives talk about that amongst each other all the time, but it doesn't get talked about openly in the workplace because I don't know why. It makes men uncomfortable. It's not It's not viewed as, there's the eye rolling syndrome that goes along with that. But it's taxing over time. And when you're working in a corporate culture that stops aligning with your own values, to stay there, you have to start giving some of that up. And it starts with little bitty, tiny, small things. And, I'm a huge fan of Simon Sinek's, and he has a podcast that he was on one time, and he's talking about how people say that honesty is a pillar of their company, but then, the phone rings and your assistant says, "Hey, it's David on the line." You say, "Tell him I'm not here," or "Tell him I'm in a meeting," or that's the tiniest little lie, but it is the beginning of a cultural. You drop a pebble in a lake and the ripple is you've just asked your assistant to lie, and you've given her permission to lie on your behalf. So what you're really doing is giving her permission to lie about other things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
that goes with the territory.
Yeah, I think that's a great example of a corporate culture that maybe doesn't align with your own personal values that you have to live in.
Mm-hmm. And you have to teach others around you how to live like that.
Not just how to live like that, but how to endure it and embrace it in order to excel in your own career.
So you have to teach people basically how to navigate that, following what you think is the more appropriate behavior. And so as those things start to pile up, can you feel that inside you?
Absolutely.
What does that feel like? I mean, how would you put some words around what that feels like?
In the beginning, it feels it's disappointing, and it feels icky.
Good word.
But over time, as it builds, it starts to feel like a big weight in your chest.
Mm-hmm. After 20 years?
Yeah, it starts to become a lot to carry. It also, and I think this is where some imposter syndrome comes in with all of this, is that it starts to make you doubt yourself.
That's interesting.
Yeah, which is when you're used to being confident, successful, the go-to person, a quick decision maker, have a track record for being mostly right, and then you start to doubt yourself on top of all of the rest of it, it becomes a real burden.
What's creating that question in your mind about whether you're doing or saying or taking a position on something that may not be right or might make you uncomfortable, that brings that self-doubt?
That's a great question, Louise. I don't know that I know the answer.
That's okay. It's just if any words come up, I think what we want to try to do here is try to figure out, for those people who are starting down that path, who don't yet have 20 years in, and find themselves in certain circumstances that make them feel icky. Mm-hmm. I think we should brand that. and they feel it and they don't know what to do with it. They don't know where to park that or file that feeling under. Is that because I don't understand something? Am I missing something in this conversation and everybody else gets it? I don't. Or, that type of questioning that goes on in your head. Is that what starts, 10 years in, 5 years in?
I think so. And, what I would say to the world is the second that you start feeling icky at your place of work is the second that you need to figure out your exit strategy and find somewhere else to go.
And that's where a lot of people have gone, and then only to find out that the culture is different, but not any better somewhere else. So is that really what we've created in global corporations, that nobody can actually be themselves and nobody can actually find a way to navigate the circumstances we find ourselves in without giving something up?
Well, this may not be a popular thing to say, but the world has become so sensitive, right? The world has become so unbelievably sensitive.
Mm-hmm.
I think that there's that we've created a corporate culture that goes across a lot of companies where people are genuinely afraid to be themselves.
Okay.
For fear of offending someone that is overly sensitive. And then I just think people have become so, they have to be so careful, right? To your point. And have we created that? I think we have.
How do you get out of that?
Become an entrepreneur.
But with your feet. And I think I certainly appreciate what you're saying and not being able to put words on it. But I think in early career, let me speak for myself, that I want people to see the potential that I have. I want people to like my ideas. I want to be liked by my colleagues. And if I don't watch what others are doing and follow suit, I might not be liked. I might not be able to fit into the culture. And if I'm too different, what will happen to me? What will be the next thing that happens? Will it be in my performance review, or will I walk in one morning and find that I've got a package waiting for me in HR? That's sort of thinking. So what you're bringing up is really pressing in on a lot of people. And I value your ability to put it out on the table, because on the one hand, you're talking about being able to navigate and endure a 20-year, career with stellar outcomes that you've been able to create, help people navigate it that are working for you, learning how to mentor them and helping them from making the mistakes that would embarrass them or embarrass you or your boss. And then at the end of the day, realizing that your identity got shaved off, layer by layer, until you could be away from that for enough time to see that or feel that. So I guess vacations don't do it for you. It has to be a longer period of time to realize my identity shifted and I wasn't part of that.
Right. It does. I mean, I would say it took me a good 3 or 4 months to work through it all. Something that was incredibly helpful to me and impactful to me in that process. I had, for about a decade, wanted to go to this surf camp in Mexico. It's an all women's retreat.
Wow.
And I never would make the time to go or spend the money on myself to do it. And after I got laid off, my husband insisted. He was like, you got to go. You have to go and do this. So off to Mexico, I went to learn to surf. And on the plane, I read this book recommended to me by a friend called The Magician's Way by William Whitecloud.
And we'll put a link for that on the website and on the podcast.
And it's a fable about a man who was having problems in every single area of his life. His job, his finances, his wife, their house. I mean, everything was a mess. And he has these friends that he went to go and visit that are self-proclaimed what they call modern day alchemists.
Okay.
And they're trying to help him help himself. They're trying to help him get out of his own way. And they send him to go and have a golf lesson. And he's like, a golf lesson? How is this going to help me with my problems? And the golf teacher talks to him about the swing circle. So when you're inside the swing circle, you're worried about your hand position and how far back you take the club and where you put your feet and how much are you going to shift your hips. And when you're thinking about all of those things while you try to swing the club, you're going to hit a terrible shot. But if you just become still and let go of all of that and visualize where you want the ball to go, and then just hit your shot without thinking, you'll hit a perfect shot. And so this idea of staying out of the swing circle changes this guy's whole life. So visualizing the outcome, it's a great little fable. So I read that on the plane, and then we get to surf camp. They give you about 15 minutes of safety instructions, and then they throw you out on the waves with surfboard.
Wow.
And I was totally in the swing circle. I was worried about the 3 Ps. Which one comes first? Do I do this first? Do I do that first? Which leg goes forward? Which leg goes backwards? Where do I put my arms? And I about half the group was surfing immediately.
Oh,
I couldn't do it, Louise. And I'm usually good at most things, and I couldn't do it. And it was super frustrating. And then the second day, there had been a terrible storm the night before, so the waves were huge. And so just paddling through the waves to get out there was a beating. And so that was a rough day. So day 3, it's the last day, and I'm thinking to myself, I'm not going to be able to surf, and I'm going to have to go home and tell my husband I spent all this money and I didn't surf.
God forbid, huh?
So we went to a different beach. The waves were perfect. It was the perfect setup. We paddle out, and I'm watching the waves, and I immediately, I'm trying to catch every wave that comes because I'm so desperate to make this work. And the surf instructor swims over to me, and she said, "You need to get out of your head and get into your heart. Stop trying to catch every wave. You will know when the right wave comes if you will just sit on your surfboard and enjoy being out on the ocean." Mm-hmm. So I did. I sat on my surfboard, did a little breathing, relaxed, just let the waves come, wasn't even thinking about surfing. And all of a sudden I saw my wave. And at the same time, the instructor yelled at me, "Melissa, that's your wave." And I popped up on it and I surfed all the way to the beach.
Wow.
I surfed the rest of the day without any problems.
Interesting.
And it became that when I saw the right wave, it was a glimpse. I saw myself surf all the way into the beach when I saw that wave. And so, I don't believe in coincidence. You've got the book on the plane, and then you have the surfing experiment. And I realized that being able to see those glimpses, I lost that. I used to be really, really good at that, and I lost that. And that's where a lot of the self-doubt came from, because I was overthinking everything instead of using my intuition. So going through that lesson, that amazing experience that I got to have at surf camp, really renewed, it helped me get a lot of my identity back. And it helped me to remind myself what my why was and determine what it was that I really wanted in order to be able to move forward.
So just if I could do a freeze frame on that for right now. So before you went on this trip, you had 20 years of life experience, bringing out fantastic new products, aligning your team to it, giving away little pieces and parts of yourself through just that necessity of fitting in and navigating what seemed like the things that the corporate culture wanted you to do. And then when you thought that your job loss was an ending for you, it turned out to be something else. In other words, that gave you the time to do this vacation you always wanted to do. And in the process of that vacation, opened up your intuition again, reconnected you, should I say, to yourself by doing something that relied on your intuition, your instincts to know when to go do something. Is that
100%.
full cycle of it? Okay. So unlike learning to drive a stick shift where, you stall it out 100 times and everyone's honking at you, this was a very private experience you were having. You were getting your own feedback. And of course, your instructor was observing, probably classmates too. But the point of it was that it was a very internal process that you were going through.
Very much so. It was, and I can't recommend it enough because you control almost nothing when you're surfing. And so it forces you to, there was another woman that was there that I swear she was in tears the entire time. She was in tears the entire time. And not because of the surfing, but because it was such a religious experience for her. And what she was going through a divorce, and apparently it was not a very nice divorce. And this experience that she was having between her and the sea and the wind and the surfboard was just incredibly emotional for her. And while her surf mates were witnessing it, we really weren't, because while we could see that she was in tears, she was in her own private little world having that experience. And so while we were witnessing it, but nobody was saying, "Are you okay?" or trying to comfort her, because it was so obvious that she needed to go through it.
So it was a release of some sort that you were observing.
Yes.
So there's a term that we use in psychology, and that is a disorienting dilemma. You can either stay the way you are or you can change. And she was experiencing pieces and parts throughout that whole time. And her resulting epiphany, we won't know because she's not here, right? But yours was feeling, if I can add some words here, feeling less competent to find the right wave and do the right things until you were able to get back into your heart, get back into your intuition. And then you knew exactly what your instructor was saying. You will know. You will know.
Yeah.
So now that you've caught the glimpse of that and you integrated that into you, what has that done to all the other little bits and pieces that you had to give up over those 20 years?
It was not immediate, but it was fast coming back. Catching that glimpse took away all of the self-doubt that I had been experiencing. Reconnecting to my intuition was really grounding.
Mm.
The more I sat with it, the stronger it became. The more I tried to untangle it and push it, the harder it was to get the pieces back.
Interesting.
So there was a lot of thinking time, a lot of journaling, a lot of, strangely enough, paint by numbers.
Seriously, paint by numbers?
Seriously, paint by numbers. It helps me think. Because you can't, or it helps me not think, I guess, really. You can't think about anything else while you're doing paint by numbers because you have to concentrate, but you're also not concentrating on something that is a problem or a solution and so it's almost a form of meditation. Thoughts come, but I'm painting, so I can't think about that right now, so thoughts go. Which was I needed and was very, very cleansing, right? So for some people, they do yoga or they run. I have my best friend as a runner. She runs as a form of meditation. Mm-hmm. So I think that there's a lot of time to be spent doing whatever it is that you need to do to not think in order for all those thoughts to just leave.
Interesting. So those were the self-questioning thoughts?
Self-questioning thoughts, the habit that I had developed of constantly thinking through, before I do this, what's my boss going to think? What's that person at work going to think? What's that person, like the constant questioning. I was doing that to myself when I didn't even work there anymore.
Oh, interesting. Wow.
It becomes such an ingrained habit. And so letting go of all of that, it's not letting go of it, it's letting all of that leave on its own is it's freeing, and it's all a part of the process of getting your little pieces back.
So it's not letting go, it's letting it leave. That's interesting because it suggests that you don't have control over what it is. You have control over whether you pay attention to it.
Correct.
So with all that head talk that was going on at the office, you felt compelled to listen to it and question it and sort it. And that took a lot of energy, I'm sure.
It did.
And letting it leave, how much energy did that take to stop yourself from acting on it?
None. It actually was a reclaiming of energy to fill the space after it was gone.
Wow. That's amazing. So over the time of 20 years, do you think your energy was being peeled off a little bit at a time?
100%.
And what's the difference if you could put, something that would be tangible around it? Like who are you today that if I had known you 10 years ago, I wouldn't recognize something about you? Is there something that was waiting to find expression that you finally have let yourself have?
I think that it ties back into the energy piece of it. As those little pieces of your energy get pulled away, they get replaced by a different kind of energy, a more negative energy.
Interesting.
And as that negative energy builds, over time, it becomes the lens through which you process thought, experience, response. And when everything that you're doing is processed through that negative energy that you picked up, that you took, that wasn't really yours to begin with, it changes your personality, I guess. And so when you get rid of all of that negative energy and you tap back into your own intuition and your why and what you really want and what you need to do to accomplish that, you're now processing through the lens of your own energy, your own being. And I think that changes everything about you.
As you were speaking, I was getting the feeling of being pulled down by, seeing the world, life through the lens that isn't yours, that is making you question what you should do because nothing that you would do would be appropriate.
Right.
Naturally. And so now putting on the other lens, which is who you really are, when you've discovered your why and what you really want, and you move toward that, that's energizing. That's building your energy, your store of energy, as well as the energy it's going to take to do tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I'm sure there's some medical study out there that describes how to measure all of this, but that sounds fascinating, Melissa. I really think that you're onto something with this. And so in the process of going through all of this yourself, how does this help you now in coaching other people? How do you transition from inside of you and that lost part of you that's now reconnected? How does that help you help others?
Well, I think having gone through that process myself, it makes it easier to identify what somebody else is going through.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, it's like, when you're listening to someone talk, you're listening to what they're saying. But then more importantly is being able to hear what they're not saying.
Right.
Because that's where the meat of the problem lies, is in what they're not telling you. Mm-hmm. And so being able to tap into my intuition and look at what's going on with somebody else through the lens of my own transformative process gives me the ability to very quickly ascertain how they're in their own way. And then take them through a series of exercises to help them figure out, because most people are outcome driven, right? When you ask people, like, why do you do what you do? Most people can't answer you. They're like, what do you mean, why do I do what I do? People can tell you, and this is the whole Simon Sinek thing, right? It's people can tell you what they do. Some people can tell you how they do it, but very few people can tell you why they do it.
That's right.
So, well, why do I do what I do? I mean, I do it for a paycheck, right? I mean, I do it for my family. No, that's your outcome. That's not why you do what you do. And so, your why is actually fully formed by the time you're a teenager. It's formed through the experiences that you have in life as a child. It might be a great experience. It might be a traumatic experience that has a silver lining, but your why is the contribution that you make to the world. It's how you serve others. And then your cause is going forward? What are you going to do next? How are you going to use your why to have some causation in the world? And helping people figure out what their why is incredibly transformative because it helps them figure out what they really want.
Mm-hmm.
What do they really want? And so if you know what your why is, and then you know what you really want, the universe will step in and provide for you the solution.
In other words, you'll manifest it naturally, like the wave.
Yep. And you have to be really careful how you talk to the universe, Louise, because the universe is very language specific. So if you say to the universe, I want a new car, the universe will manifest your wanting. The universe is very verb driven. It's not going to bring you a new car. It's going to bring you the wanting, the longing for a new car. So language is very specific when you are using intuition and you're using manifestation.
That was very powerful. And so when you're working with someone and they pique your interest because they're not talking about something, could you give us a hint about how you pick up that signal that they're either hiding something or they're not recognizing something?
It for one, I have to be rested. I have to have done my morning routine, and I have to have done a stillness exercise before the coaching session.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, just becomes very tactical. And tactical's okay, right? But it's that to tap into my intuition and that ability, I have to have done my part to prepare for that.
Completely focused.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's generally a belief system that the person has that they don't even know that they have. That's usually, it's so, and you'll pick up on, and I once had somebody say to me, oh, I'm just not in a very good place right now because I had a big fight with my mom. And I said, oh no, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, I mean, said same thing she said to me my whole life, that I can't go from being shit to sugar.
Wow.
Well, wow, right? I mean, so what sort of belief systems do you have if your parent has been telling you your entire life that you can't go from shit to sugar? That's a lot to unpack, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's identifying then, okay, so growing up that way, what were her limiting self-beliefs? What was her subconscious telling her every single time she was faced consciously making a decision about something?
Mm-hmm.
And so,
wow, right? She vowed that she would never do X because that would make her stick with the old way.
So identifying that self-limiting belief and replacing it with an empowering belief so that then your subconscious is fueling your conscious mind from a different perspective. So that's the coaching that I do. And it's and some people are very, very open to it and can make huge change. And some people are so ingrained into that self-limiting belief that they're going to keep it forever.
And if you think about the person who brings themselves to a session where they don't even recognize that they have all of this going on, that is obviously, from what you've described, burdensome.
Mm-hmm.
What you're saying is, though, they're not ready to give it up.
Right.
They are comfortable living in that.
And you have to give it up. I was actually on Stephen Bartlett's podcast, Diary of a CEO. He has a neuroplasticity doctor on one of his episodes. And the doctor describes it as if you have a glass of water and you put piss in it, and then you add sugar to it, no amount of sugar is going to take the piss out of the water. It's still piss water. So,
That's pretty vivid.
all of the good things that you do to better yourself, that's great. But whatever that trauma is, whatever that limiting belief system is, whatever that path that you've subconsciously chosen for yourself, if you can't get rid of that, all the stuff you're doing to better yourself doesn't matter.
And I think you put your finger on it, that it's subconscious. If a person was conscious of it, they would try to do something about it. So in the work that we do as coaches, we're kind of testing what they're willing to let go of, and what are they holding as their identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so I really appreciate the way that you have approached what can be a very arcane topic and very academic, which is your transition from a false identity to the real authentic identity in the process of going through a really significant life change. In this case, having to cope with the unexpected loss of the job and recognizing it as a gift, that it just opened so many things up for you, and being able to help people figure out what their why is truly inspirational. I think helping people relieve themselves of those horrible self-talk messages that obviously sometimes are still being said to us by our parents. So I love the glimpses, the surfing story, the swing circle. I mean, there's some very, very vivid messages that you've left with us today. And I think there are probably a lot of people listening that are being struck by the things in their life that might fit on some of these different topics. And so bringing it all together, it sounds like all of these topics really are to get people to navigate better. First, recognize that you're in some sort of transition, or we'll try to provoke one together. And in that process, they'll rediscover what their true purpose is. And from that point on, they can't go back. It's like a door closed. It's like the Panama Canal. When they've emptied that, whatever they call that, the lock, you can't go back because there's nothing in it. In this case, the navigating the transition is to go forward, leading authentically as you and confidently connected to your own intuition and what you think is right to do. So you're talking and touching on areas that we could probably talk for the next 5 hours about, and I'll have you come back to do that. Career shifts, the branding, rebranding of yourself, your mindset, and of course, taking it to the very practical leadership issues that people face, coaching people, helping them get ready for big meetings, board presentations, things like that we all have to do as leaders. So I'm sure you have some great ideas around those as well. So as we wrap up, Melissa, I'm certainly looking forward to getting the ongoing discussion chat going from today's session. And I want to encourage everybody who's listening to this segment ask us questions. Put some things in there that you want Melissa to talk about, and maybe things that you want to share from your own life that we didn't get to today, but you think it would be interesting to talk with us about and try to get some new perspective. Just as we wrap up, Melissa, what's the final thought that you have to leave people with?
I would just say that you're capable of more than you think you are. And that's true about every single person on this planet. So if you're thinking to yourself that you can't do it, you're afraid to do it, you're not sure what the consequences are of doing it, and so you just are going to stay where you are because it's too hard, I would challenge you to create a new belief system and just jump in that puddle with both feet, because no matter what it is that you're facing, you're capable of far more than you think you are.
That's very inspirational. Thanks for leaving that with us. Thanks again for your time, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thanks for having me, Louise.